Welcome to 1999K Radio, where deaf people talk. Good evening, night drifters, YouTube surfers, and radio listeners. Welcome back to 1999K Radio. My name is Sebastian, and tonight I will be your host. Thank you and welcome to the second emission of this, your midnight radio show. We have a nice show for you guys. Tonight, February 27th, 2022, my horror hounds, we are going to talk about horror through vision. Through the time, many amazing painters, engravers, and artists have brought to life different portraits of hell. One of my favorites is Gustave Doré. For those of you who know who Gustave Doré was, I'm pretty sure you know why I'm talking about him. For those of you who doesn't know who he was, well, you're about to meet someone that very well may have been the reason why we look hell the way we see it now. Paul Gustave Louis Christophe Doré was born in France on January 6, 1832, and unfortunately passed away on January 23rd, on 1883, at the age of 51. He was a printmaker, illustrator, painter, comic artist, caricaturist, and a sculptor. He is best known for his prolific output of wood engravings, especially those illustrating classic books, including 241 illustrations of the Bible. During his lifetime, he created 10,000 illustrations. Now, what are we talking about, Mr. Doré? Well, you see, on 1320, an Italian poet called Dante Alighieri decided to write a poem called the Divine Comedy, where he embarks in a journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven, along with his mentor Virgil, to find his beloved Beatrice. In 1866, that's 546 years later, Gustave Doré decided to illustrate it. Doré illustrated many works, but among my favorites are, of course, The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, the Bible by, well, everyone, Paradise Lost by John Milton, Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor, and The Raven by the amazing Edgar Allan Poe. But then again, why Gustave Doré? Because a long time ago, I didn't know he existed. I have seen his work, but never knew who made it. So, through this video, I want to be the bridge that unites some images that you might have seen with the creator, and also give you a few books you might get interested about. So, join me through this journey. It's gonna be a real quick one. And remember, we are in the 1800s. I want to start with you guys showing you an illustration from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. By the way, just a fun fact, you can find the audiobook of The Raven narrated by the great Christopher Lee on YouTube, and I will leave the link below. So let's continue. So we can see this engraving by Mr. Doré, and I want to recite you what goes along with them in the book, and it goes like this. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Leonore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Leonore. Merely this, and nothing more. Now, I want to show you another engraving from the same book, and it goes like this. And the raven, never fleeting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeing of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight under him streaming through his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. You see where I'm going with this? I want to show you another illustration. This one is actually my favorite illustration from The Ram of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor, which is actually the very first pirate poem. And also, Iron Maiden created an awesome song with the same title. Now, along with this illustration, it reads, and those her ribs through which the sun did peer as through a gate, and is that woman all her crew? Is that a death? And are there two? Is that woman's mate? Her lips were red, her looks were free. Her locks were yellow as gold, her skin was as white as leprosy. The nightmare, life and death, was she, who thicks man's blood with cold. So in this third engraving, we can see the death and the life in death, throwing dices to decide who will keep the soul of the ancient mariner. Now, why don't we go a little beyond and we take a quick look to the Bible. I'm going to show you one of my favorites in the Bible. This one is titled Death on the Pale Horse, and it goes along with this reading. And when the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." Then I looked and saw a pale green horse. Its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed close behind. I want to show you another one. This one is also from the Bible, and it's the prophet Ezekiel's vision of the valley of dry bones. And the text that appeared with the image says, soon as they had come together, flesh grew upon them and skin, until the bones all became bodies again. But there was no breath in them. They were still death. Then the Lord spoke to Ezekiel and commanded him to speak to the winds and say, "Come, you winds, and blow upon these dead bodies, that they may have breath and live." And Ezekiel spoke to the winds, and the winds blew upon the dead bodies, and breath came into them, and they breathed, and were alive. And they all stood up on their feet like a very great army. Now, as you can see, these illustrations are very cold, haunted, and that's why we're talking about Doré. He was able to take an idea and put it in an engraving and make you feel something by watching them. But guys, I promised you something at the beginning of this show, and I must honor that promise. So, In the Divine Comedy, Dante divided the hell by 9 circles, and I very much would love to show you all the illustrations that Dore created for this poem. But I'm only gonna show you a few of my favorites. The first one that I want to show you, it's the 5th circle of hell, the wrathful and the sullen. In the 5th circle, there were black streams running down the muddy waters. These waters led to a black swamp called Styx. Inside the shallow waters lay the wrathful, mud wrestling to rip each other's throats out. These are the souls that gave in to anger and aggression in their lives, but in deeper waters. Virgil, Dante's guide through the journey, explains that they are the sullen. The sullen are those souls that are bad-tempered, gloomy, or depressed, and they are condemned to recite endless hymns into the mud. Now, for the 7th circle of hell, we have this engraving. The 7th circle of hell is violence, and this circle is divided in 3 subcircles: violence against neighbors, violence against oneself, and violence against God. My favorite engraving is the second one, violence against oneself. This subcircle have the souls of people who hurt themselves. Their punishment is to become a tree with black leaves. They give no fruit, and their branches are being gnawed by strange, horrific, winged creatures. In this illustration, Dante breaks the branch of a tree under command of Virgil to find that there is black body inside of it, and the tree speaks accusing him to have no mercy. His voice sounds like burning wood and spitting sand. Finally, we have the 9th circle, which is betrayal. The people who are sent to the 9th circle are people who have betrayed the trust of someone or something close and special. And this is the first engraving that I'm going to show you from this circle of hell. And it reads like this: I truly saw, and still I seem to see it, a trunk without a head, walking like manner as walk the others of the mournful hair. And by the hair it held the head dissevered, hung from the hand in a fashion of a lantern, and that upon us gazed and said, "Oh me." I'm still amazed for the detail and the coldness of these engravings. And I'm going to show you the last engraving of this night. In this engraving we can see Dante and Virgil looking at the frozen lake of Judeca, named for Judas Iscariot, the man who betrayed Jesus. This lake is frozen because it's the farthest place from the light of God. We can see Lucifer, frozen from the waist down, with bat-like wings that create a cold wind when he bats them. And this engraving have this written under it: the Emperor of the Kingdom, Dolorous, from his mid-breast forth issue from the eyes. And better with a giant I compare than do the giants with those arms of his. Consider now how great must be that whole, which unto such a part comforts himself, where he as fair once as he now is pole, and lifted up his brow against his Maker, well may proceed from him all attribution. If you see this picture, this engraving, look how small they are on the right side. Look how huge Lucifer is in the middle. Imagine how far you must be to see them on that side, on that size, and how big Lucifer must be to take all that side of this picture. So guys, I guess now you understand a little more why I wanted to bring Gustave Doré to this conversation. I will leave you guys another link here where you can find more of his art, and if you want you can give him a look. Personally, I think he made an exceptional work bringing ideas to life, and his work have the ability to transport you to those places that you're reading. They feel lonely, cold, gloomy, and hellish. In The Raven, you feel the fear and desperation of the protagonist. In The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, you feel the regret for the actions taken by the mariner. And in The Divine Comedy, you feel hell. You can see how Dante pictured it in his head, and Doré's illustration almost have movement. They feel very real, and in some cases even scary. It's scary to be in a place like that, to feel what the pictures show you. I personally think Gustave Doré truly helped a lot through his illustrations. I think he actually helped to create so many things or ideas for horror movies, books, and paintings that we have today. He was really an inspiration for all of that people. Now, I have shown you the dark side, but if you want to get a better idea of what I talk about, take a look at the illustrations of heaven and tell me how you feel. Put in the comments how you feel when you see all those illustrations about heaven, comparing them to those from hell. I can't show you those engravings because I actually want you to be a little curious and look for them by yourself. I also want to encourage you to read the books that I name in tonight's show. And once you read them, look for a few additional videos to better understand them and try to deep dive into all the symbology that surrounds them. I think you ain't gonna regret that trip. Okay guys, so that's tonight's show, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Remember that this show is for you, my lost horror lovers. So chat, recommend, and give me your opinions. You know you're always welcome to contact me. I will leave my Instagram below. Hit me with the comments. Let's talk a little. And I will be here next Monday for all of you guys. Thank you for tuning 1999K Radio. Have a cold, calm night. And remember, horror can take so many different shapes. Look for all of them. Good night.